You're listening to a presentation from Calvary Chapel St. Petersburg. For more audio and video content or other information about our church, visit calvarystp.org.
Just trying to warm you up. It's all right, because we're going to read a lot about furniture tonight. Furniture. And for good reason. So when we're reading the Bible, especially in this part of Exodus, there'll be some repeat here later in Exodus, but we're covering objects inside this tabernacle, this place, this tent of meeting. It's like a big tent. And so the Bible's going to go to kind of great length to talk about this furniture. Now, so if you're like thinking about like remodeling shows, you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of see what's going on. But without the fast cuts, it's going about from the builder's perspective. Okay, we got to put this over here. It's got to look like this. The curtain's got to have this many clasps. This is the material that it's got to be made out of. And you'll see when we get done with it what's going on here. But this is just preparing you. Moses is getting instructions to build the tent of meeting. So chapter 26 of Exodus, the tabernacle, and we'll see kind of some particular details here. Make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of finely twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, with cherubim woven into them by a skilled worker. All the curtains are to be the same size, 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together and do the same with the other 5. Make loops of blue material along with the edge of an end curtain on one set, and do the same with the end curtain in the other set. Make 50 loops on the one curtain and 50 loops on the end curtain of the other set with the loops opposite each other. Then make 50 gold clasps and use them to fasten the curtains together so that the tabernacle is a unit. Make curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle, 11 altogether. All 11 curtains are to be the same size, 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together into one set and the other 6 into another set. Fold the 6th curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops along the edge of the curtain in one seat and along the edge of the end curtain in the other set. Then make 50 bronze clasps and put them in the loops to fasten the tent together as a unit. As for the additional length of the tent curtains, the half curtain that is left over is to hang down at the rear of the tabernacle. The tent curtains will be a cubit long on both sides. What is left will hang over the sides of the tabernacle so as to cover it. Make the tent of a covering of ram skins dyed red, and over that a covering of other durable leather. Make upright frame of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame is to be 10 cubits long and a cubit and a half wide, with 2 projections set parallel to each other. Make all the frames of the tabernacle in this way. Make 20 frames to the south side of the tabernacle and 40 silver bases to go under them, 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each projection. For the other side, the north side of the tabernacle, make 20 frames and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Make 6 frames for the far end, that is the west of the tabernacle, and make 2 frames for the corners of the far end. At these 2 corners, they must be double from the bottom all the way to the top and fitted into a single ring. Both shall be like that. So there will be 8 frames and 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Also make crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on the one side of the tabernacle, 5 of those on the other side, and 5 for the frames at the west, at the far end of the tabernacle. The center crossbeam is to extend from one end to end at the middle of the frames. Overlay the frames with gold and make gold rings to hold the crossbars, and overlay the crossbars with gold. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown you on the mountain. Make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen with cherubim woven into it by a skilled worker. Hang it with gold hooks on 4 posts of the acacia wood overlaid with gold and standing on 4 silver bases. Hang the curtain from the clasp and place the Ark of the Covenant law behind the curtain. The curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Put the atonement cover on the Ark of the Covenant law in the most holy place. Place the table outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle and put the lampstand opposite on the south side. For the entrance of the tent, make it a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen, and work for the work of an embroider. Make gold hooks for this curtain and 5 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and cast 5 bronze bases for them. So, Lord, as we look at your word and seeing this beautiful design of this tabernacle, I pray you would speak to us, God, that you would encourage us of what you are doing here, how this is so important. God, your plan unfolding to be with your people. Lord, I know that you love them so much. You wanted those in the wilderness to take your name outward into all the world. You wanted them to reflect you. And this is you showing your commitment to us of showing up, of being there in the center of this people. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, so kind of crazy, right? When you're reading this, what did you think? You were talking to a builder, and the builder's giving you all these specific instructions. Now, for me, when somebody tries to describe something in great length and detail, I kind of am lost. I'm like, And they're like, well, don't you see we're going to put this over here, and we're going to put this over here, and then this over here. They see it in their head, and when it comes out, I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. I'm kind of agreeing with you at this point because I don't know if I want to start over, right? Have you ever been in that position before? You're like, yeah, I guess, man. I guess that looks great. Yeah, sure. It makes sense to you. And so when I read text like this, I'm like, okay, I just need a visual, right? Could Moses, can you just draw it up for me? Just give me a schematic, right? Give me the 10 cubics. That's the size of this. And can you just roll it up in a blueprint? But this is what he's doing to Moses. He's explaining something really important, this tabernacle, if you will. Now, let me show you this slide here, kind of now this is a floor diagram. I don't know what the technical term is. It's like a schematic, a blueprint. It doesn't show you the dimensions of what the tabernacle would look like, but this is kind of the general idea of what was being described to us, a diagram of the tabernacle. You got a curtain in the front, an altar of burnt offering, a bronze basin, which we didn't talk about in our text. But then the really important part that I want you to pay attention to is that rectangle in the middle. I know what that is, rectangle in the middle. There's a table right there. You see the altar of incense, a lampstand, and there's the squiggle line, right? Well, I don't know what that's in builder code, but the squiggle line's a curtain. And what that curtain is doing is separating another really important place called the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies. And what we described and read in the text is okay, in this space, there's only one thing that you need to put in there, is the Ark of the Covenant. That's where this goes. And we know about the curtain, when we talked about it, that the curtain was embroidered, as it said in the text, by a skilled worker. They didn't want any deformed-looking cherubim. We want to make sure this curtain looks right? So you're going to get somebody that knows how to do this embroidery. There's no machines to run it through. You're going to have to hand do this, and this is where you're going to put the Ark of the Covenant. And so there's this kind of the general idea of what this whole place looked like. There are posts. It's about 70 feet long, 150 feet long, 75 feet wide. And so this is this space. And one of the things that you noticed about the text here is that this space is meant to be mobile. This is something that can be packed up, throw it on a couple oxen, and off it goes. So where you go, this goes with you. It's not a permanent structure. Another thing that you notice about the text, what it says, that when they made this structure, what is it? It wasn't hey, find some leftover parts that you guys don't want, right? He says, this is going to look nice. I want gold over this. I want this to be framed out well. I want this to be dyed. I want this goat hair, which is, I guess you can weave it. That's a lot of hair from a goat, I guess. And I want all the goat hair, and I want it to look like this, and I want you to put this color in it. It's very, very, very specific. So can you imagine, you're coming out of Israel, or you're coming out of Egypt, you're here, and then God's saying, hey, listen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to dwell with you. But I'm not going to dwell on just anything. This is going to be a tabernacle that's going to be movable that you're going to put together. And can you imagine Moses hearing all of this? I mean, if it was 10 years ago, he'd say, well, the shiplap's going to go over here, right? That was the thing, apparently. Not only was this holy house, this building right here, this is the first point, this holy house that God's designing, what is the point of this holy house? What's going on with this holy house? See, I like what Christopher Wright said. He says, God chooses to come down from the heavenly transcendent glory of the mountaintop to dwell among the people in a human-constructed earthly tent. There is surely something incarnational about this part of the story of God, something incarnational that doubtless inspired John to write. In John chapter 1, verse 14, the Word became flesh and made its dwelling, literally, its tabernacle among us, and we have seen his glory. So when we get to the story of Jesus much, much later, what we realize is that when you're looking at Jesus, what John the apostle describes in his gospel, it was listen, we saw the glory of God. And for the Israelites, that shouldn't have been a weird concept. Because what? We have seen the glory of God tabernacled among us before. From the time of the Exodus onward, there's this sense, this purpose of God to be among his people. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And so this holy house here, What is it about? Well, he describes it in this first part, chapter 26, 1 through 30, about the curtains. Man, he really likes his curtains. These blackout curtains, what kind of curtains are we talking about? The tent within which the Lord will dwell has an overall length of 45 feet, 15 feet high and 15 feet wide. God planted wooden frames, a skeleton over which 4 layers of materials are placed. The use of gold, silver together, which richly embroidered fabrics indicates that the occupant of this tent is someone exceptionally special. So these curtains that drape over the tent, one commentator said this is a tent worthy of a king. And that's something that you should take away with. Remember, they're in the desert. They've collected these things from the Egyptians, and now they put this tent together, a tent that when you looked on the outside was something worthy of a king. Another thing about this holy house, is what I'm calling this first point, is that it has a magnificent curtain. When he talks about making this curtain, verses 31 through 35, of blue, purple, scarlet yarn with cherubim woven into it, I mean, this is signifying something. Think about it. So God is telling Moses, listen, before you put the Ark of the Covenant in this space, I want a curtain to cover it, which is kind of a big deal. This curtain, though, I want it to have cherubim in it. Now you think about it, why would God want to have cherubim woven into a curtain? He's like, is it he's got a good sense for interior design, or he's like, I'm going to go the cherubim theme this year, right? Why cherubim? See, I think what's happening here, he's indicating the relationship that he had and wants to have with the people, but he's also talking about what this space is truly about. See, the cherubim we've heard about before. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The cherubim come from chapter 3 of Genesis. So if you go back a book, they're there. You're like, what are these cherubim doing? Right? Well, it tells us here, Genesis chapter 3, verse 24, after he drove the man out, this is out of the garden, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. So then what he says is, okay, when you build this tabernacle, I want you to put these cherubim, the ones that were guarding this tree of life, I want you to put them on the curtain. Because this is to show, this is a holy place. That in some way, this kind of resembles this meeting spot of heaven and earth, right there, on the ground. And that ground is supposed to be movable. It's going, all this tabernacle is meant to go everywhere. But the curtain is to remind you, this is a space that's holy. It's supposed to kind of elicit this thought back into the front. This place that God dwelled with Adam and Eve. The last thing he talks about in the text is we got these curtains which go over the temple or over the tabernacle. You got this magnificent curtain that's in the middle. And there's a couple curtains, the one in the front. And the last is this front curtain, verses 36 through 37. For the entrance of the tent, make a curtain. A second curtain hangs at the entrance to the tabernacle. And like the first curtain, no cherubim are embroidered into the linen fabric. So the first curtain, no cherubim. The second one, cherubim. And what's behind that is the Ark of the Covenant, where God's law is. The 10 Commandments that he would have, he'd put in the Ark. And there are cherubim on top of that Ark, this mercy seat. See, there's so much going on here that the people of Israel, it's not just a fancy building. It's not just saying, hey, I found these stock homes that I found online that I want you to build me one. He's actually communicating something here. This house is holy. It not only does it look tremendous, it looks beautiful from the outside. It represents something is going on here. It's fit for a king. And then what will happen? Later, we know God comes and dwell. Now, you might ask yourself, okay, this holy house, like our tabernacle that God is asking to build, but what's the tabernacle for? That's the second point. We have a holy house, and the question is, what's the house for? Right? If you watch the Aladdin with Robin Williams, right, the only one that really matters, right, the better one. He says this when he comes out. He goes, phenomenal cosmic powers. He's talking about being a genie. Itty bitty living space. And so it's a funny little line because he's like, yeah, I'm stuck to this bottle, this genie bottle. I can't go from it. I got all this cosmic power, but I'm stuck to this little bitty house. And I thought about this. Okay, God is having this space designed, right? And it's like, is he stuck there? all this power, but he's stuck in this little bitty house. He's like, I'm stuck in this spot. I can't go anywhere. And one of the commentators said this. He goes, the very existence of a tabernacle carries with it the possibility of false theology. It might encourage a limitations of God's omnipresence. See, God is everywhere. I mean, in the sense of like, he's not just stuck in one little spot. But when you think about it, you're like, well, wait a minute. Why would he put a spot here? Why would he have a tabernacle built here? Because if you think about it, all the other gods that were roaming around and these temples that were there, oh, that's the home of that God. That's where he lives. He's not a genie stuck in a bottle. I mean, this is what King Solomon would say when they built the temple. In 1 Kings 8:27, he goes, but will God really dwell on earth? Even the heavens to their utmost reaches cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built? He's like, the heavens can't contain you, and you're going to just stay here? No, because something's happening here. Something's going on in this text. Something's going, why the tabernacle? Why put it amongst the people? What is God trying to communicate? Why the cherubim? Why this Ark of the Covenant? Is it to scare people off? What's this house for? It's to show us something. It's to tell us something about God. He's not constrained there like a genie in a bottle. I like what one commentator says. The primary text leaves us no doubt that the sanctuary is considered to answer human needs. God is not said to abide in it, but among the Israelites. The tabernacle is the only material symbol of God's immanence, of his presence being felt in the community of Israel with particular intensification. And the commentator tried to bring it out. He says, listen, this is not God is stuck to this area. The reason is that he is meant to dwell among the Israelites. That's what he wants to do. And so he has this tabernacle built. And so when you see the tabernacle, you realize, listen, you are coming in the presence of God. There's these cherubim that remind you, oh, wow, I mean, there was a space that God and man were together and they've been exiled, but God has not left us. He's there among us. Because his whole plan was to dwell among the people. That's why the tent was movable. That's why the tent didn't say, okay, we're going to set it up here permanently. Go down, dig through the sand and find some bedrock. No, he's like, this tent is meant to go with you. So you know that God is with you wherever you go. I think this gets to the heart of, because I think King Solomon, when he constructs the temple, this is what he understands this house, what it's meant to show and to signify. It's not that God is locked in one spot. It's to say, let me tell you what God is truly like. I'm going to read for you 1 Kings 8:27. We have it up on the screen here, verses 27 through 32. It says this, but will God really dwell on earth? The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built? Yet give attention to your servant's prayer and his plea for mercy. Lord, my God, hear the cry and the prayer that your servant is praying in your presence this day. May your eyes be open towards this temple night and day, this place of which you said, my name shall be there, so that you will hear the prayer your servant prays towards this place. Hear the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Hear from heaven your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. When anyone wrongs their neighbor and is required to take an oath, and they come and swear the oath before your altar in this temple, then hear from heaven and act. Judge between your servants, condemning the guilty by bringing down on their heads what they have done, and vindicating the innocent by treating them in accordance with their innocence. This place, the temple, was a spot where he's saying here, hey, when people come, Lord, and they make an oath, you judge rightly. God, when your people come and they pray and they look at that temple, would you forgive them? It's not that the gold in the temple is any more special than any other type of gold, right? It's not that these bricks are any different than any other bricks, but what happens? God says, hey, I'm going to dwell among you. And the idea is that when you pray, realize that God can forgive you. And that when you take an oath, that God does hear that oath and he will vindicate and he will judge. So the house is a symbol saying, hey, God's right. God's among us. Don't mistake and say, oh, well, I don't see him, so he must not exist. We can live life the way we want. See, Solomon knew when he looked at the temple, he's like, you're really going to dwell? I mean, the whole earth can't contain you. But he goes, no. I want to be with you. I want to be in your midst. And when he does that, it just doesn't, like I said, he builds this beautiful place. He shows up later. We'll find out about that. But this is the description of what this place is meant to be. It's a house where God to dwell among his people. And that's why the text talks about this place is very special. Why? Because it's holy. This temple, or this tabernacle, if you will, has a special spot in it. It's got a holy place, and then it's got the Holy of Holies. It's the place where God's Ark of his covenant is in there, where we know we'll learn later is that the priest can intercede. The high priest can go in there, and he can intercede by going through that curtain and intercede for the people and say, God, will you have mercy on us? And so what's happening is it's showing God's intent and his purpose in a very practical, tangible way. Now, this curtain, when I was reading the text and thinking about what am I going to talk about the furniture, I'm like, there's so much furniture in here. And there's like the curtains and the rings and put the basin down here. I'm like, man, we're putting up a tent. Like, what's happening here? And when I was reading this text, it was brought to my memory another time that this curtain that separates the two spaces is mentioned. Now, it's mentioned a couple other places, but in particular in the New Testament, it's mentioned in a couple of the Gospels. This is where it says in Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26. I love this. Because this temple, this curtain, like I said, the high priest was the only one that was allowed to go through it. So Jesus, in his life, in his ministry, he's now at the cross. He's getting ready to pass. And this is what the text says here. I might have the wrong chapter up there, David. I'll read what I have. I think it's, should I do 26? Is it right? Is it right? Hold on. Is it 27? Oh, sorry, David. It's chapter 27, not chapter 26. It's probably too late. This is what it says. Matthew 27, pick it up in verse 50. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. So he's on the cross. He's passing. In a loud voice he cries, he gives up his spirit. At that moment, it's so funny, two of the Gospels mention this. At that very moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Remember, the place that had the cherubim on it, which separated the Holy of Holies, this curtain was torn. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life, then came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. That's just kind of crazy. I mean, this third point, this holy place, and think about it in this way. So Jesus passes, and as soon as he passes, that curtain tears in two. Not from the bottom to the top, but from the top to the bottom. Something happened. See, God there tabernacling among his people, he's doing it for millenniums. And then when Jesus comes, he's saying, hey, listen, there is truly a high priest. That's what the New Testament talks about. Jesus, and it talks about in the book of Hebrews. He's a high priest. He's the one that atones for the sins of the people. And he says, now what? You have access to God. Something happened when that curtain teared. I like what somebody said. He says, remember, that curtain in the temple was not a flimsy little veil. It was heavy and thick and almost as substantial as a wall. The curtain separated the Holy of Holies where God's glory dwelled from the rest of the temple. It separated the people from the presence of God. And remember that only the holiest man, the high priest from the holiest nation, the Jews, could enter the Holy of Holies. And only on the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, that he had to bring a blood sacrifice, an atonement for sins. The curtain said loudly and clearly that it is possible for anyone sinful, anyone in spiritual darkness, to come into God's presence. It's impossible for them to do that. At that moment, Jesus Christ died. This massive curtain was ripped. The tear was from top to bottom, just to make clear who did it. This was God saying, this is the sacrifice that ends all sacrifices. The way is now open to approach me. Now that Jesus has died, anybody who believes in him can see God, connect to God. The barrier is gone for good. This curtain will play an important part later in the story because Jesus says, listen, I've now made a way. There is no more need for sacrifice. I've fulfilled something. Something has been completed. And now you can and I can come, as Hebrews talks about, as the Bible talks about, we can come into God's presence. Think about it. The idea is unheard of when we're reading here Exodus, because who can go in there? Well, there's only a couple people. Moses is the one that speaks, right? I mean, you got Aaron the high priest. We'll learn about him later more and more about he's going to have this breastplate and representing the 12 tribes, and there's a connection between him and God.